and welcome to Temple Talk from Jerusalem, Israel. Rabbi Richman here together. Yitzchak Reuven, 16th of Elul, 5779, also the 16th of September, 2019. And this week, Parshat Ki Tavo, beginning in chapter 26 of Sefer Devarim, Deuteronomy. It will be that when you enter the land that Hashem your God gives you as an inheritance. And here we are together again. Yitzchak, I missed you so much, but I understand that in my absence, you did a phenomenal job on 3 consecutive Temple Talks. The comments that you got were absolutely out of this world, breathtaking programs. I feel bad like cramping your style. You got into the solo thing, and you did a beautiful, inimitable job on Temple Talk. I don't want to cramp you now.
Enough with the fake news, Rabbi. You know it's not the case. I stumbled through 3 shows. I'm thrilled that you're back. We all want to hear about your adventures in India. And I have a question. I'm sure everybody's asking. Why are we recording on Monday the 16th of Elul and not on Tuesday the 17th as we usually do?
Oh, and that is a wise and a noble question, my son. And the answer is that the 17th of September of Elul has been deemed Election Day, take 2, here in the state of Israel, courtesy of Avigdor Lieberman. And how it goes, nobody knows. And so, as opposed to doing Temple Talk after the election and dealing with all of that, we're doing it before the election. We ain't got nothing to say about it, except that there is a creator, Yesh Borei Olam. There is a creator. He's got a program. And we'll do our best. We'll do our very, very best to merit to the leadership that hopefully we deserve, or maybe even better than we deserve.
Amen.
Yitzchak.
Yes, Rabbi. I've been talking about your shofar blowing.
You set me up because
I
didn't bring my shofar today. My shofar's been through a lot, by the way. It was almost taken away by Indian security several times. Misunderstandings in the airports. I do still have it, but I didn't bring it, and I have a shofar here that I don't know how blowable it is. The relationship that I have with that shofar is singular. But I will try my best for the sake of this month of Elul. And the wake-up call, that we're all softening our hearts. The sound comes in, and it wakes us up, and it prepares us for what's to come. Try my best.
Wonderful, Rabbi.
And
truly
actually,
woke me up.
You know, before the trip, I was a little bit uncomfortable leaving the land of Israel and the holy city of Jerusalem in the month of Elul. I actually left on Rosh Chodesh Elul because the month of Elul is so important for introspection and for all the spiritual work that we have to accomplish in order to prepare for Rosh Hashanah. And I felt a little awkward just with myself. I'm just revealing to you on this personal level of thinking. Like, I felt a little bit disconnected, like leaving and undertaking such a massive project in the month of Elul. But I have to tell you, Yitzchak, I think this was the most significant month of Elul so far that I've ever experienced. And the work that we undertook, the spiritual insights that Hashem granted us, the unbelievable relationships that we forged, and the whole experience, which was life-changing, was such a perfect first half of Elul, because it was such a tikkun, and there were such strong spiritual forces at work. I'm so grateful to the Almighty that we went through what we went through, and I must tell you, it was, I feel, maybe one of the most important things that we've ever done. It was so incredibly beautiful. We held 4 seminars.
Mm-hmm.
In 4 cities in India, in southern India, in Erode, which is in the state of Tamil Nadu, Talang, I think it's called, and then in Hyderabad, and in Visakhapatnam, and in Vijayawada.
Mm-hmm.
And altogether, my wife and I merited to meet personally over 600 people at these seminars. Amazing people that we met. It was really beautiful, pure souls that are trying so hard to connect to the God of Israel, to live according to the God of Israel, It's a very spiritual country, India, but it's in all kinds of directions. So the people that we met with largely were, I guess, what some people refer to as lost Jews, in terms of the fact that they're people, Indians, who claim descent. I say claim, but actually backed up through like genetic testing. Many families claim descent to the tribe of Ephraim, lost tribe of Ephraim. So they have this Israelite identity,
Right.
for numerous generations, and being isolated from the rest of the Jewish world, kind of, and wanting very, very much to be in Israel and to be with their people and to live a Torah lifestyle. It's kind of presses the irony of the fact that there are so many Jews in the world today that could be in Israel if they wanted to,
Right.
very easily, but don't opt for it because it's just not what they want. And here there are so many people that want so badly to be in Israel, and they can't be for various reasons. Also met with numerous Noahide communities, organized groups of Gentiles, former Christians and former Hindus who opted for the 7 commandments of Noah and living according to Torah, and amazing people in communities consisting of hundreds. Altogether, it was just so amazing to find these devotees of Torah and mitzvot and Israel in the heart of this country that has such a strong Hindu motif. And my first exposure, of course, to this country and this lifestyle was very, very amazing experience. I have to thank the many, too many to count, numerous volunteers who helped organize and orchestrate these very, very complex events that were extremely successful, that drew very, very large crowds. You can see some of the photos that we have on Facebook, but actually we have many, many more, and even some films that we hope to edit and produce so that people can have an understanding of what's going on there exactly. And we held seminars about the subject of the Holy Temple, but it really was much more than that, because the Holy Temple includes everything in the world. The Holy Temple is all about man's relationship with Hashem, and what goes on there is all about the striving for perfecting that relationship. And indeed, the teachings that we gave over were all about the mainstays of Jewish faith, Jewish life, for Israel, and the Torah's message for the non-Jews as well. A very warm people, very kind, very respectful, very sweet, very pure, just beautiful, beautiful people that we met. Amazing, absolutely amazing.
So, we'll have more questions for you, Rabbi, concerning your trip to India. But I'm going to change the subject. What do you think about Parshat Ki Tavo? What's that all about?
Parshat Ki Tavo is as amazing as the rest of the book of Devarim. The whole idea of what's going on here is staggering. This is the last parsha, really, of a certain sequence, because from this point on, the last 4 parshiot, beginning with next week's parshat Nitzavim v'ayelecha azinu and v'zot habracha, the last 4 Torah portions of the book of Devarim were all said the same day, the last day of Moshe's life. So keep that in mind as we read Parshat Ki Tavo, and again Moshe's message to his people. Parshat Ki Tavo is extremely, I think, enigmatic would be the word, because it begins with the incredible pageantry of the bringing of the first fruits, one of the most profoundly sublime and indescribably emotive experiences that a Jew can have, as described by the Mishnah and even the verses here. The whole experience of the pilgrim bringing the first fruits to the Holy Temple, something that we're clearly missing today, and everything that it represents. It's considered by the sages the height of joy, really, to bring the first fruits of one's own land, of course, of the 7 species that are singular to the land of Israel, to bring the first of the fruits to the Holy Temple, to present them there at the site of the altar where Adam was created from, to lift them up together with the Kohen before the presence of Hashem, and to make this declaration, which is basically a synopsis of national and personal history and a total confession of our total dependence on Hashem and our total recognition of Hashem's goodness in our lives, this unbelievable experience. And then we go on to the whole idea of making a new commitment to the covenant, and these stones that are erected, covered with plaster, and upon which are written. That's a question. Is it the whole Torah? Is it just this section? Is it certain commandments? The word here used in chapter 27 and verse 27, right. You shall inscribe on the stones all the words of this Torah. Be'er hetev is translated in English as well clarified, and according to our sages, they were written in 70 languages, in all the languages of the world.
Before Google Translate.
Right. So it was this amazing process. And then, of course, a large portion of the parsha, beginning in chapter 28, chapter 28 begins with the blessings, which are very succinct, and basically can't ask for more. Basically clear, lucid statements of happiness, of peace, of prosperity, of health, of a fulfilled life. In very, very succinct verses. And then Moshe goes on to a lot of verses with this admonition, which greatly differs in many ways from the admonition, the curses so-called, that we find at the end of the book of Vayikra. Perhaps in this week's video lesson we will speak about the differences between the sets, and the whole question of how we understand these verses, not as a threat, not as a punishment even, and not even as a consequence, which is what we would want to say, that it's not like that Hashem is going to be punishing us, but that this is the natural consequence of disconnecting ourselves from the source of life. That not even that. The deeper understanding of the admonitions in this parsha is more along the lines of the fact that they're really good at the root, that it's disguised, as it were, but at the root of everything, that everything is really for our own good, that everything is really a manifestation of Hashem's love and caring, trying to bring us back. You'll ask, how does that apply to some of the very severe and difficult things that are here? So again, I hope we'll get into that more later in this week's lesson. But the idea here is, of course, famously kind of two poles of this week's Torah portion are the beginning, the bringing of the first fruits as this ultimate expression of joy, and the tell-all verse in the midst of these admonitions, this harsh, difficult, future shock vision of an unraveled life, dystopian, exactly. And then we come to verse 47 of chapter 28, where we have this unbelievable verse that says, because you did not serve Hashem your God amid gladness and goodness of heart, when everything was abundant. Which basically seems to be indicating that all of this dystopian, as you said, vision is coming to be because we lacked appreciation and lacked a joyous heart and appreciation of everything that Hashem does for us. So there's a lot here to understand. If I might digress for a moment and share an idea with you, Yitzchak, one of the things that I found most compelling and most intriguing on the one hand and sort of terrifying on the other hand about our incredibly beautiful visit to India was the idolatry that we confronted. The Hindu people, it's the real thing. Like here, I feel like I've been talking about idolatry so much, and we teach about it, we learn about it in Torah, and the whole pull in the ancient world of idolatry. And I always defined it in modern terms, in terms of anything that becomes like a mediator
Right.
between us and Hashem is an idol, right? So you understand exactly what I'm saying in terms of various faith systems that feel that we don't have direct access to Hashem. Any mediator is idolatry in a Jewish mindset. And then also, I've always felt that anything that keeps us totally from committing ourselves to Hashem, as in Deuteronomy 6, we shall love Hashem with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Any place that we hold back, that we have a dependency on something else, or a fixation, an obsession with something else, whether it's a career or a car or a person or a coffee or any fix at all, that's also a type of idolatry. So that's all fine and good, and that's cool. I mean, that's how I always understood it in my genre of being an American in this century, and then, like, you go and you see real idolatry. I mean, the type that Avraham Avinu was fighting against. I mean the real thing. I mean people worshiping idols, and I'm learning about it and studying and speaking with learned people there. It's like, and I can't believe it. Like, do they really believe in the thing itself, or is it just a representation? And no, apparently it's like they actually, ascribe deity to the idols, and it's so all pervasive, and the people that we were meeting and learning with and establishing relationships with, they came away from that, whether in this generation or a previous generation, and they're in the midst of this very idolatrous society, and they're proclaiming the one God of Israel, which is absolutely breathtaking, and they're such amazing people. And all around is like this sea of this very rank idolatry. It's like, you go into, even in the hotels that we spoke in the front of the hotel is an altar with an idol on it, very colorful, very picturesque, and bringing to it incense or fruit or lighting candles, and it's in every store, or it's in every corner, and there's a shopping mall and the sign. We were there during a 10-day Hindu festival, and there's a big banner, that in honor of the festival, that this particular god is granting us to give you discounts. And where we were in southern India, there's a particular deity which is, I guess, kind of maybe local to this particular place. It's an elephant-headed deity, and a boy's body or a different body every time, but it's this elephant's head with a long elephant trunk and human eyes. It's very disconcerting, and I learned the whole story of how this particular elephant deity came into being, and we won't do Hindu 101 right now, so I won't bother you with that. But then I'm driving, and I see like a long line of people going all around the corner, hundreds and hundreds of people like going all around the corner, like waiting for something. And is it like are they online for like a food kitchen or like a Broadway opening or a bank, an ATM? No, they're online to do their service to this particular deity at this time. I don't know how many times a day, and they're all bringing coconuts, and there are coconuts everywhere. On all the corners, they're all selling coconuts. The vendors are selling like coconuts, piles of thousands of coconuts, because part of the way of serving this particular god is to break a coconut. To go to the god and break a coconut on the floor. And apparently a person can vow, I'm going to break 100 coconuts today, and this brings about prosperity or whatever it is, but this is the particular way of serving this god, is breaking a coconut. And it's unbelievable to see this en masse, you know what I'm saying? Like people that are so very gentle and kind, and very, very courteous, and stuck in this incredible worldview. To me, it's incredible to see, like I say, like this is not theoretical idolatry. This is not about being enslaved to a cup of coffee or a career or being obsessed with a woman or my nice car. This is the real thing, and it has some sort of pull, some sort of power. Even though I think that was nullified long ago, the real power of idolatry, but there is still such a thing in the world for these people. And it makes me think about how Maimonides explains how, if you want to really appreciate Hashem, you contemplate the creation, and you contemplate the stars and the sun, and you see all the myriad aspects of creation, how beautiful it is. And then you contemplate also, I'm thinking all this to myself about how Rambam asked a question in his Guide for the Perplexed, his philosophical work. He asks, how is it that humanity ever came to idolatry? After all, Adam HaRishon, the first man, was created personally by God. And therefore, certainly that's a tradition that he passed down to his children. If my grandfather got a medal from the king, I would know about it. How is it that in a mere 10 generations,
Right.
The whole world, from Adam to Noah, the whole world forgot that there was Hashem? And the Rambam explains that it has to do with the way they viewed the world. They viewed the world as vying powers, as very fragmented, as different powers. And I'm not even, I'm not a scholar in Hindu theology, and I believe that they do have an idea of maybe one greater power but that gave over the as emissaries of powers to all these other powers, and those powers have to be worshipped themselves. I don't know, but in any event, their worldview is very fragmented, and that, I think, is the definition of a pagan worldview, is to feel yourself to be vulnerable and at the mercy of all of these powers, to be flung about and flotsam and jetsam of an unsure, uncertain world, and all these forces have to be mollified,
Right.
and they all have to be appeased, in order to just navigate through life, in order to make it unscathed. And I couldn't help thinking of the powerful idea of these coconuts that are being broken for this idolatry that, as far as I know, might be from the time of Abraham. It's so ancient, and it's so base. And I'm thinking about the beginning of our parsha, bringing the first fruits to Hashem's presence, and how that worldview, the worldview that I witnessed there in India, it was so fragmented, and how this idea of bringing the fruit of Hashem's creation that He allowed me to grow back to Hashem's presence and acknowledging His oneness and unity, how it's like so many worlds apart. It's like so incredible, that iconography. Like, it hit me this week's parsha, also involving our connection, as it were, to the natural world, to fruit, but elevating it to Hashem and stating that everything comes from Him, as opposed to the coconut breakers. I hear the music. So good to be back with you, Yitzchak. Thank you for your warm welcome. Good to be back in the land of Israel.
Welcome back. Shalom and welcome back to Temple Talk. This is Yitzchak Reuven, and with me, back home again, Rabbi Richman. I really missed you, Rabbi. I'm so happy you're back here where you belong, in the land of Israel. I know you had an amazing adventure in India, which we're going to talk about more. It's actually a Jewish tradition, the Jewish travelers throughout, for thousands of years. Jews have traveled from the Holy Land or from other parts of diaspora and traveled to far-flung places, to Asia, to Africa, the Middle East, all over, to the Americas, and met Jewish communities, and also met, as you used the word before, Israelite communities, that is, lost communities, descendants of lost tribes. There was Rabbi Akiva was a traveler, and Eldad Hadani was a traveler, and Benjamin of Tudela was a traveler, and they chronicled their...
Benjamin of Tudela writes that his entire purpose in his travels was to report about the conditions and the issues facing these various communities.
So you have taken part now in this noble tradition of connecting with far-flung and often disconnected Jewish communities who have survived the ages by virtue of the purity of their faith and their indomitable spirit
It was
to
such a
remain as
tremendous
part of the
blessing.
Jewish
I have
nation.
to tell you, without exaggeration, I feel it was like the most important thing I've ever done in my life. I feel it was like my whole life is like before and after. Like there was before India and after because of these people that we met. First of all, again, I have to thank my dear friend Yoshua Jacobi and all the myriad volunteers that helped to make these events tremendous success. Do you know that 2 people came to Hyderabad, India, all the way from Kuwait to attend these seminars? There were some that followed us all around India, the distance of thousands of kilometers to all of these seminars. And it was a wonderful opportunity to share Torah and to talk about the significance of the Holy Temple and Israel and Jerusalem and Torah for today, how Torah is relevant, how we serve Hashem under all circumstances. And it made me feel such tremendous awareness and also compassion for what the Jewish people have been through in the thousands of years of exile.
Yeah.
How, like we read in Jeremiah 31, how Rachel's crying for her children, for there are not. And of course she's speaking about the children of Yosef, which is Ephraim, and how they're like swallowed up, and how these people are struggling to maintain their Israelite identity. They're so fine and so wonderful. They're really relationships that have changed my life, the people that we met there. And I'm saying again, in general, the Indian people are very, very sweet and wonderful people. And the Noahide community is also amazing to find these islands of, like I say, in a sea of paganity all around, these people that are focusing on Torah as Gentiles and a Torah lifestyle. It's one thing, these wonderful communities that exist all around the world in America. But under those circumstances, the lifestyle is completely different. The poverty level, the suffering of the common person in India is just, life is very, very difficult. We saw a lot of suffering. It's a difficult life, There's I heard that there's 47 million millionaires in India.
Yeah.
I didn't see any. I didn't see one. But I saw tremendous suffering, tremendous poverty, and the gap between, I guess, there's no middle class at all.
Right.
There's no lower class. It's like terrible poverty, and apparently there's unspeakable riches somewhere. I didn't see it. And people are eking out bare living and striving for good.
Right.
It's really, really amazing, and that's one thing that was life-changing, to realize how spoiled we all are, and how little a person really needs, looking at the circumstances of people and their higher ceiling, as it were, of tolerance for pain and suffering. It makes you really realize, and making that shine in the midst of it. So it was really, really such a spiritual undertaking. I'm very, very grateful to Hashem that He gave us this opportunity. I'm looking forward to going back and to deepening relationship with these people, that wonderful people that we met and that we continue to have classes with now and correspondence. And really makes you see things differently, when you realize what's going on in the world.
Well, that brings me back to where we left off, the first half of the show. The pilgrim bringing his first fruits. You talk about being appreciative and grateful for what you have, and thanking the source of that blessing. And that's really maybe that's the real difference between faith in Hashem and some type of idolatrous faith, because you're focused on the real source. I've always understood, or I've come to understand the concept of the first fruits offering as basically returning to Hashem what we took in the Garden of Eden. We took something that wasn't ours. We took the first fruit that we took was a fruit that was forbidden for us to take. And so now we're coming clean, and we're returning to the source and saying, you know what? This is yours. I grew it with my own hands, and I'm giving it back to you. You're my God, and this belongs to you. And also, it's repairing the breach which led to what you described before, which led to the beginning of idolatry and paganism, because when Adam made that breach with Hashem, he knew who Hashem was, but he turned his back.
And that in itself was an act of fragmentation.
Yes.
That was like the mother of all fragmentation, and I always say that the greatest tragedy of what happened with eating from the tree of knowledge, which was in the fix. I mean, it was a setup in
Right.
a way, and it had to happen because
Right.
we have to have free choice.
Right.
But the greatest tragedy was the illusion that was created that we're in control. And it created this tremendous illusion of fragmentation that I'm me and you're you and everything is separate and we do our own thing. And therefore the universe is totally fragmented, but it's chaotic, and it must make a person who subscribes to that, it must make him feel just like that he is at the mercy of...
Well, that's really what all those admonitions are describing, a chaotic world, a world which you have no control. You're at the mercy of other powers and other people's whims, and you're at the bottom. It's the exact
seems
opposite.
so circumstantial, and everything seems so haphazard, and everything seems to be spinning out of control, and you're really at the mercy of all sorts of forces. It was really just... imagine what I'm going through. We're there under these circumstances, trying. I must say, the circumstances under which we worked for these 12 days were very trying physically. Really weren't able to eat. It was very difficult physically. And on the one hand, we're meeting with these shining souls, the most beautiful. Honestly, really, the most beautiful people I've ever met. Amazing people. And on the other hand, there's all around us. There's all this tremendous idolatry. And that dichotomy was so powerful.
But you're talking about people with pure intention, but simply with a skewed understanding of the world, of reality around us. That's what it sounds like you're describing to me, in which their pure intentions aren't making the connections that they should, that their pure intentions are being scattered and tossed to the four directions.
But the worldview of again, to use that word fragmentation, the worldview of the idolater must be horrific, to think that you are dealing with these forces and you're at their mercy like a puppet on a string, and everything is in conflict all the time, and therefore the person himself is in conflict.
So one of the liberating things of the first fruits is the dialogue. That not only do you bring first fruits to the altar at the Mikdash, at the Holy Temple, but you get to speak to God, and you get to disburden yourself of of your thousands of years of history. Like, this is what we've been through, and that being able to connect it directly is a true blessing.
And again, because it is such a spiritual country, on that basis, I think it was very part of my whole approach was that there's a lot of temples here. There's a lot of serving a God. There's
Right.
a lot of the concept of man trying to reach out and communicate and connect, and so that's okay. Everybody understands that. But why is this one different? Why is the temple in Jerusalem different? Why is Jerusalem different? What is so singular about this experience? And that gave me the springboard to be able to differentiate between Hashem and everyone else. Hashem's plan for creation, the Torah's whole conception of humanity, and what our role is, and as always, the most important lesson for any person, Jew or Gentile, when it comes to taking the whole Torah and distilling it into a couple sentences, if we had to make that the universal message for Jews, for lost Jews, for Gentiles, for Noahites, for everybody. What is the Torah teaching us? What is the message of the Torah for humanity? It's I find basically two ideas that I think are connected. One is free choice, which is paramount, and it's so significant. The fact that we're not forced to do anything. We don't believe in the devil. We don't believe in demons. We don't believe that a person is at the mercy of any force but himself, which is the worst of all, and that we have the ability to make a choice and to choose between right and wrong, and that's so sacred. That idea, that's really everything. And that's why the Garden of Eden happened the way it happened, because it had to happen that a person should have free choice.
Mm-hmm.
And the other idea, which is the sister, the twin of free choice, is personal responsibility.
Yeah.
That we can't pass the buck, that we can't blame anything on anyone else, that yes, we're waiting for the Messiah, we need to be redeemed, but his job is not to do my job.
Right.
My job is to be the best person that I can possibly be. And that's the Torah's worldview, really. Speaking of election day. Our job is to be the best people we can be. Our job is to. You have two things. You have personal responsibility and you have free choice.
Right.
And hopefully, Hashem will merit us to make the right choices and
While you're away, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came on to had a press conference and vowed that following the elections, he would immediately annex the Jordan River Valley, which comprises about 30%, I think, of the Judea and Samaria. And of course that, raised a lot of eyebrows. Ooh, since when? Why now? How can you do that? That's the end of the two-state solution, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, since 1967, it's pretty much been consensus from every rational Israeli that, two-state or no two-state, the Jordan Valley is completely essential to Israel's security. It's beyond conception that we could ever part with that from a security perspective.
You and I know that very well. In fact, we met in the Jordan Valley. It's my best
did,
friend
yes.
of all time. We
actually met in Ramallah.
Okay.
But we served together in the Jordan Valley. We defended the valley. And there were people who were trying to infiltrate.
Yes.
During our
we did our military service.
Our service there.
In the Jordan Valley, alongside the Jordan River, there's an electric fence that separates between Israel and Jordan. Not electric to electrify you to the touch, but electric meaning that it's alarmed, and if anyone tries to cut it or affect it in any way, then a patrol is notified, and you have to come to patrol. In fact, the very first miluim, the very first stint of reserve duty that I did not do with the group because my sixth child was born.
Mm-hmm.
This is back 28 years ago, almost 28 years ago.
Yeah.
When my sixth child was
Right.
born, I was exempted from.
I noticed that. I noticed you weren't there that miluim.
Oh, you were there? You know what I'm about to say?
When there was an infiltration?
Yes.
Yes, I was the second patrol to get there.
Oh my goodness! So then you know.
Yeah,
Tell story
the
then.
shooting had stopped by then,
Right,
but
so what
yeah.
happened? There were
They had approached the fence.
multiple terrorists that I think
And
were,
once they approached the fence and the alarm went out and they realized a patrol was coming, they hid behind some trees on the other side. And as the patrol approached, they opened
My understanding
fire.
had been that they were hiding under some bushes for more than one day.
That I don't know.
A couple of days waiting for a patrol.
And they opened fire and
And one of our number, what was his name again?
oh boy,
You know exactly who I mean.
yeah, he got seriously injured.
He got hit in the abdomen, I think.
Yeah, there were two of our soldiers were shot, and their terrorists were
And
eliminated.
that was still under the leadership of Captain A. You know who I mean, right?
Yes.
Captain A.
And this was also this must have been post Oslo. I'm trying to
I
recall.
don't think so. I think it's before. How old
Before?
is Oslo?
Also, it became 93, I think. 1993 was when they first signed the first Oslo
Okay, so
disaster.
This was 28 years ago.
So anyway, they're exciting
Anyways,
times.
I'm saying the Jordan Valley is more than essential. It is synonymous with security.
Bibi also at the same press conference said that right after that, then he would begin to establish Israeli law in all the Jewish communities over the Green Line, meaning that actually is the Jewish communities over the Green Line, Jews who live there are Israeli citizens, but not all the Israeli law applies because it's still under military administration. So there is actually, in a certain way, we're second-class citizens because certain things don't apply, and that's considered, the first step of making annexing the area to the state of Israel.
Oh, you know what?
We'll see what happens.
As temple activists, you and I,
Yes.
our lives are centered on the rebuilding of the Holy Temple. Our attitude and approach, I suppose, should be which party or person running in this election is going to bring us closer to the rebuilding of the Holy Temple.
Okay.
Now, that might sound a bit facetious or maybe whatever, but the point is, honestly, that is the destiny of the people of Israel,
Right.
and that is the secret of the state of Israel. The state of Israel has already brought so much blessing to the world. It is a blessing. Its whole essence is a blessing, and it's brought technology, and it's brought microchips and antivirus and cell phones, and now cancer cures and unimaginable blessings to the world. But that's not really that's not the blessing that it's intended to bring. That's almost like a byproduct, which is
The warm-up
an
act.
inevitable byproduct of this concentration of Jews. But the main product is the one that Zechariah the prophet talks about, where he says that 10 men from the nations will grab hold of the corner of a Jew and say, well, "Let us go with you because we heard that God is with you." And the purpose of the Jewish people in this world, what they were chosen for, whether they like it or not, is to bring the light of God into the world, is to show the world who Hashem is, and that is what the state of Israel is all about, whether it knows it or not, and it does know it on some level, and that is the secret of its struggle, and that's the way to understand all the news about the state of Israel, that it's constantly engaged in the struggle for its own identity, and ultimately, with all the blessing that it's brought, it is marching towards the total completion of its mission in this world, which is the Holy Temple, because that is what brings the light to the world. And so the question is not in the least bit facetious. The point is, all of these things that we're going through, all the upheavals, all the processes, including the political process, is being used by the Almighty to bring us towards His goals, and that is the building of the Holy Temple. So I ask you again, which party is going to bring me closer to that, is going to be part of that? Meaning, who has some sort of normalcy left, who has some sort of vision of what the Jewish people are really all about, or at least who absolutely doesn't, so that I can avoid those, so that I can know, well, it can't be this guy because he is just totally a self-immolator, and he has no idea whatsoever what it means to be a Jew. That might be a good.
That's a place to begin.
Yeah.
But I have to say, you mentioned, the prophet Zechariah said that, when Gentiles will grab the corner of the garment of 10 Gentiles will grab the corner garment of a Jew and say, show me your God. It sounds like that was your experience in India. People were literally reaching out for you and grabbing you and saying, teach me, Rabbi, teach me.
That is what a Jew is supposed to be doing in this world, God willing. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But the beauty of our resurgence and revitalization in the land of Israel is on the national level, that this is what we were intended to do, and what we must do. And again, whether or not we admit that is a different issue.
Right.
And I really believe that is the core inner turmoil that the Jewish people as a whole and individually are going through in this world. It's because we're not like other people. We have this job. We can't get out of it. I didn't ask to fill out a form, but there it is. This is our responsibility. We accepted it at Sinai.
And I do believe that the stronger our commitment is to the Temple Mount, and the greater that we project that commitment and our integrity concerning the Temple Mount and the Holy Temple, that the opposition and the animosity toward Israel will begin to melt away, because I really think that it's the Temple Mount, is denigrated in the media as, a tinderbox and a powder keg and, the world's most contested real estate, et cetera, yada, yada. But it's not. It's a place that ultimately everybody does agree on. And we need simply to step up to the plate. And again, the Hebrew expression, darkei noam, through paths of peace, but to express and to make clear why this place is of the utmost importance, unapologetically. And I do believe that when we do that, and we have been doing that, and as we get stronger in expressing it, then more and more people and nations and enemies will begin to get
and this is why
the
two-state
message.
solution is such a poison, is so heinous and so insidious, because it basically is calling for the destruction of the Jewish state.
And it's calling for the end, God forbid, of the vision of the Holy Temple and peace for all humanity.
That won't happen. Hopefully it will happen.
God forbid.
Soon, whatever the news is, it's good.
And vote tomorrow, vote early and often, as they say. Thanks for being with us. Temple Talk.